In the slow lane, Australia's speed limits, bureaucratic stagnation, and missed opportunities in road innovation. A nation shackled by caution. Australia's vast landscape demands efficient road networks. Spanning 7.7 million square kilometres, with cities separated by vast outback, the country relies heavily on cars and trucks for connectivity, commerce, and culture. Yet its speed limit policies remain among the most restrictive in the developed world, rooted in outdated assumptions and stifled by bureaucratic inertia. While Europe pioneers high-speed motorways, intelligent transport systems, and adaptive infrastructure, Australia clings to conservative speed caps, fragmented planning, and a failure to embrace modern road technology. This story examines the facts behind Australia's speed limits, the bureaucratic machinery that enforces them, and the stark innovation gap compared to Europe. Through data, case studies, and policy analysis, it reveals how governance failures have left Australia's roads inefficient, costly, and unprepared for the future. The state of Australian speed limits. The numbers. Australia's speed limits are notably low for a developed nation. Urban areas, default limit of 50 km per hour, dropping to 40 km per hour in school zones and high pedestrian precincts. Arterial roads, typically 60 to 80 km per hour, with many downgraded from higher limits in recent decades. Highways and freeways, capped at greatest 110 km per hour. Nationally, with some states enforcing 100 km per hour. Or lower on modern infrastructure. The Northern Territory allows 130 km per hour on select highways, the only exception. The safety rationale. The Australian Road Safety Strategy 2021 to 2030, under the Towards Zero vision, prioritises reducing road deaths to zero by 2050. Authorities cite data showing that a 1% increase in speed correlates with a 4% increase in fatal crash risk, based on studies like the Nitten Firefire Nielsen model. Speed limit reductions are often justified by localised crash statistics, with agencies like Transport for New South Wales or Vic Roads acting swiftly to lower limits after incidents. The counter-argument. This approach overlooks critical advancements. Vehicle technology. Modern cars feature anti-lock brakes, electronic stability control, lane-keeping assistance, and autonomous emergency braking, reducing crash likelihood and severity compared to vehicles from the 1970s when many limits were set. Road engineering. Newer Australian highways like Queensland's Bruce Highway upgrades or Victoria's M80 Ring Road are built to standards supporting 130 km per hour plus B. Speeds yet remain capped to lower. Driver behaviour. Uniformly low limits may foster complacency, reducing respect for signage when limits feel arbitrary. Data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics 2023 shows road fatalities have declined 30% since 2000, despite population growth and increased vehicle use, suggesting technology and enforcement are already effective. Yet speed limits remain static, ignoring these gains. The bureaucratic quagmire, fragmented governance. Australia's road system is a patchwork of competing authorities. Federal government funds major projects via Infrastructure Australia, but has no direct control over speed limits. State and territory governments set limits through agencies like Main Roads, Western Australia, or Transport for New South Wales, leading to inconsistencies, e.g. 110 km per hour in Queensland versus 100 km per hour in Victoria for similar highways. Local councils influence urban and suburban roads, often advocating for lower limits, e.g. 40 km per hour, its zones in inner Melbourne to appease community safety concerns. This fragmentation creates inefficiencies. A driver on Sydney's M7 motorway might face 100 km per hour, 90 km per hour, and 80 km per hour. zones within 10 kilometres, despite consistent road quality. Traffic calming measures, like speed humps or chicanes, are overused on arterial roads, disrupting flow. Decisions are reactive, with limits often lowered after crashes without engineering or data-driven justification. Planning shortfalls. Australian urban planning prioritises sprawl over efficiency. Cities like Sydney and Brisbane have sprawling suburbs with limited public transport, forcing reliance on cars. Yet road networks are under-designed. Bottlenecks. Major arterials like Melbourne's Hoddle Street have frequent traffic lights, reducing effective speeds to 30 to 40 kilometres per hour during peak hours. Underinvestment. Regional highways such as South Australia's Dukes Highway suffer from poor maintenance and outdated alignments, despite high freight volumes. Missed opportunities. New projects like Sydney's WestConnex or Perth's Northlink Way are built to global standards but capped at 80 to 100 kilometres per hour, underutilising their capacity. Contrast this with Europe's coordinated planning. Germany's autobahn system, for instance, was designed in the 1930s with long-term scalability, featuring wide lanes, gentle curves and high-quality surfaces. Australia's ad hoc approach results in roads that are quickly outdated. Chapter 3. Europe's gold standard, Germany's autobahn. Germany's autobahn is the benchmark for high-speed travel. Unrestricted sections. About 70% of the network has no speed limit, with advisory speeds of 130 kilometres per hour. Safety record. In 2022, Germany's road fatality rate was 4.2 per 100,000 people, compared to Australia's 4.5 KDIS OECD data, despite higher speeds. Engineering. Roads feature reinforced pavement, advanced drainage, and wide shoulders, minimising hazards. Driver training. Germany's licensing system requires extensive practical and theoretical training, ensuring competence at high speeds. Beyond Germany, other European nations lead in innovation. Netherlands uses dynamic speed limits that adjust based on traffic, weather, or time of day, supported by intelligent transport systems, ITS. For example, the A2 motorway varies between 100 to 130 kilometres per hour, using real-time data. Sweden implements Vision Zero, similar to Australia's Towards Zero, but pairs it with WACH smart infrastructure, like automatic speed cameras and vehicle-to-infrastructure V2I communication. France combines 130 kilometres per hour motorway limits with his toll-funded maintenance, ensuring consistent road quality. These systems rely on data-driven governance, with centralised agencies like France's Autoroutes or the Netherlands' Rijkswaterstaat, overseeing planning and innovation. Chapter 4. Australia's innovation deficit. Australia trails in adopting modern road technologies. Variable speed limits. Used sparingly, mostly in tunnels, e.g. Sydney's Lane Cove Tunnel. Most highways rely on static signs. Intelligent traffic systems. Limited to urban trials like Melbourne's. SCATS, traffic light coordination, which is outdated compared to Europe's AI-driven systems. Smart highways. Non-existent. Europe trials. Solar roadways. Dynamic EV charging lanes. And V2I networks. Australia has no equivalent pilots. Maintenance. Regional roads, like New South Wales's New England Highway, suffer from potholes and poor signage, undermining safety claims for low limits. Economic impact. The lack of innovation has tangible costs. Freight inefficiency. Trucks, limited to 100 kilometres per hour. On highways like the Hume, increased delivery times, raising costs for Australia's $70 billion freight sector, 2023 data. Commuter productivity. Average commute times in Sydney, 37 minutes, and Melbourne, 34 minutes, are among the highest globally, exacerbated by low-speed arterials. Fuel and emissions. Congestion from under-designed roads and low limits increases fuel use, undermining Australia's net zero emissions. Goals. Political and cultural barriers. Risk aversion. Politicians fear raising speed limits due to public sensitivity around road deaths. Campaigns like Speed Kills have embedded a narrative that speed is inherently dangerous, ignoring context like road quality or vehicle safety. Revenue incentives. Speed enforcement generates significant revenue. In 2022 to 2023, New South Wales alone collected $400 million. In speeding fines, New South Wales Revenue Office. This creates a perverse incentive to maintain low limits and strict enforcement rather than invest in engineering solutions. Cultural resistance. Unlike Europe, where driving is seen as a skilled activity, Australian policy treats drivers as risks to be managed. This is reflected in overregulation. Frequent speed cameras and heavy fines foster resentment. Lack of trust. Authorities rarely consult engineers or drivers on limit setting, relying on political or community pressure. Case studies of failure. Northern Territory's Stewart Highway. The Stewart Highway Sport was unrestricted until 2007, when it be 130 kilometres per hour. CAP was introduced after public outcry over crashes, yet a 2019 NT government study found no significant reduction in fatalities post-CAP, as most incidents were linked to alcohol or fatigue, not speed. Sydney's WestConnex. This $16.8 billion motorway, completed in 2023, is capped at 80 to 90 kilometres per hour. As you see, in sections, despite being designed for 140 kilometres per hour. 130 kilometres per hour. The low limits stem from local council pressure and safety messaging, not engineering constraints. Melbourne's Monash Freeway, built for BAUC 120 kilometres per hour. It's limited to 100 kilometres per hour, with frequent reductions to 80 kilometres per hour during works. Congestion costs Victoria's economy $5 billion annually. Grattan Institute, 2022. The broader costs. Economic. Low limits and congestion increase freight and commuter costs, reducing GDP growth. A 2024 Productivity Commission report estimated Australia's road inefficiencies cost $20 billion yearly. Innovation. Without trial zones for smart roads or high-speed corridors, Australia cannot develop or attract cutting-edge technology. Social. Frustration with restrictive policies erodes public trust in governance, fueling non-compliance, e.g. 15% of drivers admit to regular speeding per NRMA 2023 survey. A path forward. To close the gap with Europe, Australia must 1. Trial higher limits. Pilot. 120 to 130 kilometres per hour. Zones on highways like the Hume or Pacific with strict monitoring. 2. Adopt smart systems. Invest in dynamic signage, V2I communication, and eSKU AI traffic management. 3. Enhance training. Reform licensing to include high-speed and defensive driving skills, mirroring Germany. 4th. Centralise planning. Create a National Road Innovation Agency to coordinate standards and trials, bypassing state-level politics. 5. Decouple revenue. Redirect fine revenue to road upgrades, reducing enforcement bias. Conclusion: a missed opportunity. Australia's road network is a paradox. A nation of vast distances, modern vehicles and growing cities, yet constrained by policies rooted in caution and fragmentation. Europe's success lies in its engineering excellence, data-driven governance, and trust in drivers. Australia, by contrast, prioritises control over progress, revenue over innovation. Without reform, Australia risks remaining a global laggard in road technology, wasting economic potential and failing its drivers. The path to modernisation requires bold leadership, unified planning, and a willingness to trust in engineering over fear.